An important part of Robertson County's history was the contributions made by African Americans during the 19th and 20th and on into the 21st century. In fact, the Robertson County Historical Society recently produced a play based on the lives of two iconic African American educators, Lena Bransford and John L. Patterson, who truly made a difference in the lives of their students during their careers.
Embodying the character of Lena Mae Bransford has made a major impact on my life. It makes me, in my mind, go back and wonder what life really was like for her. The happy times, the sad times, the ups and the downs, and how she was able to make this big of a difference in a community where the African American woman didn't have a lot of say-so then, and matter of fact, not even a lot of resources. Miss Lena was a powerhouse during her time. As the story tells, she had Bransford Elementary School named after her, Bransford High School named after her, and even now in 2024, they are breaking ground on the Bransford Community Center that is to open in honor of her name and her family's name. She put a major emphasis on education, instilling in her children and the community as well that education was the route to go in order to get ahead in the world. But now there's more to going to school than learning to read and write. A good education will take you throughout your entire life.
I believe his impact a lot has to do with, again, he was an educator. And I think specifically, we talk about it in the show, but he was a big proponent of the desegregation of schools.
And students came from all over, rich, poor, and in between like me. Not only was I introduced to new people, but to new ideas and ways of thinking.
In spite of the fact that he knew that it would mean losing his own job as principal at Bransford, again, he encouraged all those students to go because he knew that that was a move that was going to have a grander impact, again, as far as making sure that, regardless of what your race is, what your background is, everyone deserves that education and gets the chance to not only learn together, but also experience people from different backgrounds.
It was a different time. You had to fight for your place. It was sometimes a struggle just to be this race. But they each had a story, life they get to share. So this is the case today, so pull up a chair. You'll hear the story of teachers who did more than teach. They changed the world around them. Their lives did more than preach. They lived their lives with gumption, fortitude and strength. And when you hear their stories now, you gotta sit back and think. We each have a story, a life we choose to live. Whether we leave a legacy, whether we choose to give, we each have a story to tell. So listen, my children, and listen well. Yes, we each have a story, a life we choose to live. Whether we leave a legacy, whether we choose to give, whether we choose to give, we each have a story to tell. So listen, my children, listen, listen well. Well, good morning to you. Lordy, you gave me a scare and you beat me to my own classroom. Well, they told me you were coming today. Now, you're Lord Jane Anthony and you're a brand new teacher here at Bransford Elementary. Well, they tell me that you want to sit in on my class for a couple of days to see if there's anything you can take with you into your new teaching career.
Yes, ma'am. I want to learn from the best, and my mama said that you were the best. I'd also love to hear your story. If you'd tell it to me, I hear it's a good one.
You want to hear my life story and that you heard it was a good one. Well, Lord, I don't know about all that. But what I can say is that it is one that's full of hard work and lots of love. Now, let's see. Where do we start? My daddy, Sam Bransford, he was the first African-American barber here in the city of Springfield. Boy, were we proud of my daddy. He owned his own shop up on the town square where he catered to all the white folk in town. He would cut hair and laugh and joke and just do a number of sorts of things in that shop. Made us proud. Boy, were we proud of my dad. He would take and just have all kinds of activities in that shop. My family was also amongst the first to purchase land in the city of Springfield. My daddy purchased his first lot from Walter Bell in 1866. My daddy was a determined man with big dreams and aspirations, determined to leave behind a legacy for his family. Now, my mama, Harriet Cheatham, she was born a slave on the plantation of Colonel Richard Cheatham in 1834. My mother, she came from a long lineage of slavery going all the way back to my grandmama Fanny. You see, Fanny was born on the plantation of Edward Saunders in 1824 and was later inherited by Colonel Richard Cheatham when Edward Saunders died. My mother met and married her first husband, Humphrey Bowling Sr., and to this union, 3 children were born: Fanny, Victoria, and Humphrey Bowling Jr. Me and my sister Fanny, we had such a love and respect for education that we both taught in the Robertson County schools. My mother, she kept a close relationship with the Cheathams after emancipation. The Cheathams even helped to finance the education of me and my sisters and brothers. You see, I attended Walden College, Roger Williams University, and Tennessee A&I. Fanny and Humphrey, they attended Fisk University, and my sister Anna, she attended Lemoyne Owens College. My family had such a great love and respect for success in education that yielded educators, attorneys, ministers, doctors, businessmen. Education was so important to me and my family that I devoted my life to teaching. I started teaching when I was 16 years old,
which spanned across 4 generations of students. You see, back then, if you could read and write, they allowed you to teach the colored children. Now, I never married, and I never had any biological children, but God blessed me with my students as my children. Although, there was one gentleman caller who stole my heart. His name was Levi Robertson. He told me that his mama told him that she named him after one of the most important of the 12 tribes of Israel, the Levites. She told him that his name meant that he was a leader and not a follower, that he was sure to lead God's people someday, just like Moses. And that he did. After he had accepted his calling to the ministry, he went all over this county preaching and teaching and spreading the good news of Jesus Christ. Now, that was my biggest attraction to him, in that he loved God. But that man was handsome and good looking too. He was tall, 6'4" to be exact. Chocolate brown skin, a muscular build, and the whitest teeth. His teeth were as white as the driven snow, and he had a smile that could light up a room. He smelled good too. Back then, we didn't have much money to purchase expensive perfumes and cologne, so we pretty much stuck to soap and water for our smell good needs. Well, I don't know what kind of soap that man was using, but he sure had my nose wide open. He had a deep voice and a massive presence, one that made the room stand still when he walked in. He was a soft and gentle man, but he ain't take no mess. He was 10 years younger than me. I was a modern day cougar, y'all. But that didn't matter, because we were two of a kind, 2 peas in a pod. Now, at first, I couldn't let him know my true feelings, because I had a reputation and a family name to uphold. You know, what the young folks today call playing hard to get. He would come to my door with the prettiest of flowers. About the first dozen so times, I didn't even acknowledge the man. I didn't even open the door. But week after week after week, he came back with those pretty flowers. He would leave them on my porch. That consistency and determination, it had my heart skipping beats, because I knew that man was serious about me. And that determination paid off too. I remember one day, my cousin Georgia was over at my house when Levi came to bring me those pretty flowers. He looked at me sternly and said, "Now, Lena, man, this is getting right ridiculous. Please open that door before we have a flower shortage all across this county." So, one day, I fixed myself up right pretty, and I opened the door. And the rest is history. After courting for about 6 months, I was sweet on him and him on me. We would spend countless hours in each other's presence, planning our future. A home with at least 3 children, 2 boys and a girl. Levi Jr., Asher, and Olivia. Because we had a lot of love to give. You see, Levi and I, we came from big families with many sisters and brothers, and we wanted our children to experience that same love. Then, in the spring of 1917, Levi was drafted into the army, and he went off to fight in the war. Wow, my heart was shattered. How could this be? But he promised that all of our dreams and plans would come to pass as soon as he returned home from the war. And I held on to that dream with everything in me. Every 2 weeks or so, he would write me, letting me know what was going on in what seemed to be a distant land. Always telling me how much he loved me and how much he missed me. Then one day, the letter stopped coming. I got nervous because something just didn't feel right. 2 more weeks went by, still no letters. Then one summer morning, June 7th, 1918 to be exact, there was a knock on my door. I thought to myself, who could be at my door this early in the morning? I went to the door, and there was a soldier standing there, dressed in uniform, with a letter in hand, coming to let me know that my sweet Levi had died in the line of duty. My dreams were crushed. My plans of being married with children were shattered, but I didn't let that stop me. You see, I took those dreams and plans that Levi and I had, and I put those into action with my students. Those dreams and plans drove me to support my children through helping them to purchase books and school supplies and personal needs if their parents could not afford them. I love music, and I give music lessons to my students. And I'm also the pianist over at the Leota Street Church of God. Now, I taught first grade, and I was a loving teacher, but I was a strict disciplinarian. I ruled with an iron fist, and no one dared cross me. Not the parents, the teachers, or the principal. I was a no-nonsense kind of person, and I ain't taking no stuff off nobody. I love teaching, and my parents always taught me that the only way for a colored child to get ahead in this world was for them to get the best education they can get. You see, that's why I taught first grade. I figured if I can make the children believe in education when they first get in school, maybe it'll take. Maybe I will be that spark to not only get them to the second grade, but maybe on to high school and maybe on to college. And Lord God, help us all to become a doctor or lawyer. You see, that's what the colored folks needed during that time. And that's what I instilled in my children. My babies, I call them. Now, y'all have to remember, it wasn't easy being a woman during my time. And it sure wasn't no picnic being a colored teacher in the white man's world in Springfield. But we endured. And to a certain extent, we overcame. Every year, right after the beginning of the school term, I would take my students on what I like to call walkabouts. You know what teachers today call field trips. I thought it was important for the children to get outside of the color part of town a little bit to see and explore things. There was one walkabout that I will never forget that happened in 1920. We would pass the principal's office and he'd come over and say to me, "Well, where you going today, Miss Lena, with your little duck?" He liked to tease me, say I look like a mama duck leading her little duck to the pond. I say, "To the Robertson County Courthouse, of course, Mr. Washington." "Woo-wee," he would say. "Well, make sure you bring all your little ducks back with you and stay out of mischief." So, off we went down Richard Street, past Elmwood Cemetery, and I had it timed to where the 11 a.m. train would be arriving when we got to the railroad tracks. I say, "Look at that, children. Look at that train. It's coming fast with everything from people to hogs to coal and everything in between. If you stay in school and get yourself a good education, you might be on a train just like that someday going God knows where. You might even be the train engineer." My babies would look at me and smile and nod their heads. Then we would go on down the street to 7th Avenue and head east past the biggest and prettiest church in town, the United Methodist Church of Springfield. I say, "Look at that, children. Isn't that a pretty sight? Isn't that a great house that the Lord has built?" Then we would turn left on Locust Street and go past the newest and grandest building in all of Robertson County, the United States Post Office of Springfield. Now, my cousin Georgia, he was the custodian there, and he had it set up with Postmaster Addie Bell so we could come in and take a quick tour. The children loved everything about the post office with all the hustle and bustle. And of course now, the color folks' privy was nearby. Now y'all listen to me. After all that walking, the children were sure to need some relief by then. Then we would head on down Main Street where we would have our lunch on the grass. Now, knowing that all my students wouldn't be able to bring a lunch from home, the ladies over at the Leota Street Church of God would fix my babies a nice sack lunch for our walkabouts. Now, that sack lunch would consist of a chicken leg of thigh, a biscuit, and an oatmeal cookie. And then we would wash it all down with fresh water from the cistern at the school. The children would always say that the chicken at the Leota Street Church of God was always the best. Then after our lunch, we would lay on the grass under the elm trees and we look over at the Springfield Baptist Church across the street. I tell the children, now if you pray real hard, you might hear some pretty music today. Well, they just begin to pray. Now, unbeknownst to them, but known to me, the church pipe organist would practice for Sunday service on her hour lunch from the First National Bank. You could hear that pretty music all over town. The children would say, "Now what church is that, Miss Lena? Where the pretty music come from?" I'd say, "That's the church that whiskey and tobacco built for the white folks in town." Then we would head north of Main Street to the grandest building of them all, the courthouse, the center of power in all of Robertson County. It was there one day that I experienced racism at its worst. Now, Judge Pepper, he was the overseer of the building, and he was a friend and customer of my father's. He, like the friendly postmaster, would allow us to come in and take a tour, with the understanding that we didn't upset or disturb anyone, of course. Well, one day I was giving the children a tour of an upstairs courtroom when I spied this white man that noticed me and the children. Reckon he thought it was odd that we were in downtown Springfield, let alone the courthouse, as he walked over to me and said in a very menacing voice, "Who are you, girl? And what are these pickaninnies doing here? Don't you know that this is the Robertson County Courthouse?" I said, "Yes, sir. I am their teacher, Lena Bransford, and I'm escorting my students through one of the most important buildings in all of Robertson County." He looked at me and said, "Well, you need to get them out of here, girl. This ain't no place for the likes of them." I responded to him in as a measure of a tone as I can muster up in all my 50 years of dealing with racist white folks. "Yes, sir, I will, as soon as we finish our tour." He looked at me and said, "I don't mean tomorrow, girl. I mean right this minute, you hear me? And don't you make me repeat myself." Well, by now, all my babies, they were scared, and two of them were crying softly under their breath because the man's voice got louder with every word that came out of his mouth. Well, sir, I stood there as he looked at me and glowered at me, and his eyes sunk back in his head. Then I prayed to the Lord, and I asked for strength as I walked up to the man and I said, "Now, sir, I'm sorry that you are having a bad day, as it is obvious that you are, and for that, I am truly sorry. But you see, Judge Pepper, he feels as I do that the children and I should come and visit this grand building every year so they can understand and learn what this means to our community." Well, by that time, Sheriff Jett and Judge Pepper, they come down the steps and they tip their hat at me as the judge says, "Well, good afternoon, Miss Lena. I see you bringing your children to the courthouse again today. Make sure you stop by my office before y'all go. I got some peppermint candy on my desk for each one of them. My, what a mighty fine-looking bunch you got there with you today." I said, "Well, thank you, Judge. We sure will do that." Then the sheriff and the judge, they went on their way. Now, the angry white man, he looked at me, and then he looked at the children, and then he began to stare at the second floor balcony, the very balcony where 5 colored men were lynched by a white mob in 1881. After what seemed like an eternity, he looked at me and said, "Well, good afternoon, Miss Lena. Nice to make your acquaintance, and goodbye, children." And then he hurried on down the steps. I thought to myself, the nerve of him. Now, I wish I could tell you folks that was the only time that racism raised his ugly head at me. But unfortunately, I cannot. There was one dark day in the fall of 1918 that I will never forget. The Spanish flu, it hit the colored community harder, more so harder than it did the white folks. We didn't have time to build coffins as we had to get the bodies in the ground as soon as possible. During that very sad time, we referred to the funerals as the planting. There was one morning, my cousin Georgia, he set out about 6 a.m. to dig the graves of 3 of a family of 6 that lived down the road from my house. Then about 9 a.m., we get a call from the doctor to dig another grave. Then about lunchtime, we get a call to dig yet another grave. Then around 4 p.m., we get a call to dig the last and final grave of that family of 6, with 2 of them being children that I taught in the first grade. Now, I lived on the corner of 17th Street and Cheatham, right within walking distance of the school that was named for me and my family. I have strived to be a goal-oriented, God-fearing, legacy-leaving, no-nonsense, earth-shaking woman. I have come from a very strong and courageous family. I pray that I have made my family proud by setting that same example for my students and each and every individual that I've had the pleasure of coming into contact with in my lifetime. Now, Laura Jane, I pray that yourself and others will not only rise up and give these children a good education, but teach them what it truly means to make a difference in this world.
Yes, ma'am.
Rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up and follow me. Rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up, let me teach you how to lead. Rise up, rise up, rise up, it's time to take a stand. Rise up and write your story, you're the only one who can.
More than what you will learn in the history books. Gotta dig a little deeper to find out what it took to change the world and make a difference, leave a legacy behind. It's the will to win and it's the power to fight, and it's a strong and steady mind.
Rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up and follow me. Rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up, let me teach you how to lead. Rise up, rise up, rise up, it's time to take a stand. Rise up and write your story, you're the only one who can. You'll only make a difference when you take that leap of faith. It's what you gotta do to make this world a better place. So light a fire and start a flame. Persevere through the hardest days. In the battles you'll go through, just remember who has paved the way for you. Rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up and follow me. Rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up, let me teach you how to lead. Rise up, rise up, rise up, it's time to take a stand. Rise up and write your story, you're the only one who can. Rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up and follow me. Rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up, let me teach you how to lead. Rise up, rise up, rise up, it's time to take a stand. Rise up and write your story, you're the only one who can.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the graduation exercises and ceremony of the 1947 graduating class of Bransford High School. We're delighted that you are here on this momentous occasion for your sons and daughters and for the teachers, staff, and students. This signals a day long in coming, but a day that will go down in the history of our community. I wish to personally thank the faculty and the staff of Bransford High School for helping us to prepare your graduating seniors. All of them have labored hard to instill knowledge and, yes, even wisdom to your sons and daughters during their time here at Bransford High School. They are, in my estimation, a group of people that are the finest our community has to offer. May I get an amen? I would like for you now to bow your heads as I lead the invocation. Give us grace, O God, to dare to do the deed which we well know cries to be done. Let us not hesitate because of ease or of the words of men's mouths or even our own lives. Mighty causes are calling us. The continued freeing of our people, the training of the children, the putting down of hate and murder and poverty. All these and more, O God. They call us here tonight, and our graduating seniors, with voices that mean work and sacrifices, and possibly even death. Mercifully grant us, O God, the spirit of Esther, that we say, I will go unto the king, and if I perish because you know, O God, our cause is righteous and our beliefs are strong. Amen. It is difficult to put a challenge to paper. I'd rather look you straight in the eye and say, I dare you. In my mind, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm on one side of the table and you on the other. I'm looking across and saying, I dare you. I dare you, young man, to learn a trade at Tuskegee or Hampton. I dare you to till the soil, save your money, and buy your own farm. I dare you to go into business to a point of respect and pride in the community. I dare you to go to college and take a profession of your choice. I dare you, young lady, to be a queen. Make life obey you and not you it. I dare you to guard your public conduct, your good name. I dare you to do the uplifting, courageous things. I am daring you to think bigger, to be bigger, and I'm promising you a richer life and a more exciting life if you do. The world is teeming with opportunity. The rewards for daring were never so rich or so plentiful. Science, religion, farming, business trends, education, all are looking for the man or woman who dares to face life, to attack rather than to defend, to think rather than sleep, to work long and hard rather than idle around. Life is a glorious adventure. If you jump out of bed early in the morning full of vim, vigor, and vitality to attack some good idea of your own, you're on your road to victory. If you face problems aggressively, they are half solved already. If you aspire to larger responsibilities, they will meet you halfway. Success is nothing but a good idea coupled with hard work to the bitter end. And wherever you go, do not forget home, church, and Bransford High School. Remember, the faculty of Bransford High School wants you to feel free to call upon us at any time if for any further assistance you may feel that we are able to give. Our interest in you does not end with this graduation, but will last during the coming years. A happy life is in store for you if you will live as Bransford High School has taught you in the days, months, and years which lie ahead. Faithfully yours, John Patterson, Principal of Bransford High School. Well, hello. Can I help you, sir?
Yes, look for Principal John Patterson.
Well, I'm Bransford High School Principal John L. Patterson. And what can I do for you?
My newspaper sent me here to do a story about you and your school. It seems like you two are quite famous.
Well, I don't just tell my life story to just anyone. Who are you and where will my story end up?
My name is Eric Bell, and I work for the Tennessean.
So you write for the Tennessean. One moment. Excuse me, young man. Where do you think you're going? What's that? You say you're going to the toilet. Well, so the toilet, or rather the men's room, is in the other direction. And while you're in there, your shoes, they just won't do. Give them a shine while you're in there and tuck in that shirt tail while you're at it. You are a student at Bransford High School, the finest African-American school in the world. Now show some respect, sir, for your school, your teachers, and your fellow students. Now, Mr. Bell, why don't you come to my office and we can talk about exactly what it is you want from me. You can take a seat here if you please. Now tell me, why exactly would the Tennessean want to write a story about a poor old high school principal from Springfield, Tennessee?
Well, they said you was an innovator, a motivator, and a leader in the black community.
Well, that's very nice of you to say, sir, but you do know that next year Bransford High School will be closing its doors forever, don't you? All right, then. Just one moment. Miss Chapman, please hold all my calls. You may want to get comfortable. This may take a while. Now, I was born on August 6th, 1906, to James L. Patterson and Odie Bigsby Patterson. They named me John Lucas Patterson. Now, my mama said it was the hottest day of the year, while my daddy said he didn't remember it being all that hot. Mama said, well, Lord help James L., that's because you weren't giving birth to a 9.5-pound baby boy. She said, why, you were half grown when you came in this world and just a holler. Papa said, that's right. Now, both my mother and father were the children of former slaves. My paternal grandfather was Austin Boss Patterson, who was well thought of in the black community, or as it was known in them days, the colored part of town. Now, one day I asked him, Granddaddy, why does everybody call you Boss? He laughed real loud and said, well, back in those days, we'd be working the tobacco crop, and the man would say, all right, now, boy, I got to go to town. You make sure everybody in the field stays busy till I get back. You the boss. And after that, everybody just started calling me Boss. I love my grandfather. He could tell the best stories. He also taught me how to fish and how to shoot rabbits and squirrels and cook them for dinner. Now, both my parents being the children of former slaves, they were not highly educated themselves, but they did believe highly in education. I was taught from a very early age that an education was the only way for a black woman or man to get anywhere in the white man's world. Now, keep in mind that in those days, most farm families did not send their kids to school beyond the 6th grade. This was because they felt that an education was not necessary. They felt that if you could learn to read and write, that would be enough. But when I came of age, I started 1st grade at the Bransford School. My 1st grade teacher was a striking, tall, and no-nonsense 42-year-old woman by the name of Miss Lena Bransford. That's right, she was so well thought of that they named the school after her. I took to her real quick, too. Little did I realize, but Miss Lena, or BB as most folks called her, would have an effect on me from then on up through the rest of my life. She taught me that if you can make a child believe in school when they first get here, that could very well be the spark that gets them on up through high school and maybe even on to college. Now, growing up in the colored community of Springfield, there was a pride amongst the folks that lived there. And the center of our world was 13th Avenue, which ran from Highway 49 to Betts Boulevard. Along 13th in them days, you could find restaurants, grocery stores, funeral parlors, barbershops, and plenty of other black-owned businesses. And if you wanted to hear some good music, or maybe even taste a toddy or two, you could find that on 13th as well. Now, back in these days, Springfield was really separated into 2 different towns, one for the white folks and one for us. Now, looking back, it was unfair. But back then, we could only imagine how things could be any different. Now, continuing on with my education, Mom and Daddy made sure I buckled down on the schoolwork at Bransford. Thankfully for me, I had some wonderful teachers who took a liking and interest in the tall Patterson boy. Teachers like Mr. and Mrs. B.H. Moore, who became principals at Bransford. It was also during this time that I took a liking and interest in a pretty but shy girl, Miss Rowena Callis. Her family were held in high regard in the black community for having donated land to establish the all-black Chrysler School in the county. Now, after graduating valedictorian from Bransford High School, class of 1927, Rowena and I got married, and off we went to A&I State College in Nashville. Now, little did I realize how different things were for the colored folks there. Professors and students came from all over the country, rich, poor, and in between like me. Not only was I introduced to new people, but to new ideas and ways of thinking. I learned how a black man from a small rural town could become a teacher and make things better for his family, his friends, and his neighbors. It was a college that I fully realized how important education was to everyone, and that old separate but equal doctrine was a lie, because there was nothing equal about it. Burning with this newfound passion, I couldn't wait to get back to Springfield and to Bransford High School. And after graduating from A&I in 1932 with both my Bachelor of Arts and Master of Science degrees, I was hired by Bransford High School principal, Mr. A.M. Gilbert, as a teacher at Bransford. Now, during this time, I did everything asked of me, from teaching to coaching ball teams to mentoring young men and women. But I also studied Mr. Gilbert very closely because I wanted to be a principal myself one day. Then my chance finally came in 1939 when I became the 5th principal of Bransford High School. Now, having studied my predecessor's list of achievements and hard work very closely, I decided on an ambitious list of goals to achieve my dear old alma mater. Now, some of these goals included things like increasing attendance, offering extracurricular activities, holding a school fair, and organizing a school band. I also wanted to entice rural county students to attend Bransford after the 8th grade and organize bus routes to bring them. Oh, and I also wanted to take our students on trips to places like Nashville, St. Louis, and Washington, D.C., among plenty of other things. And by 1942, enrollment at Bransford had doubled. And by 1946, it had doubled yet again. In 1950, additional classrooms and a gymnasium were added. And by 1965, enrollment had doubled yet again. By this time, there were more graduates at Bransford than there were students when I first started teaching in 1932. And some of the things I was proudest to have accomplished during my time at Bransford were starting a school newspaper we called The Beacon that aroused great interest in the whole community. I was also able to organize those bus routes to bring those rural county students here, and even convinced nearby Cheatham County to send their black students to us. We also started a men's booster club we called the Business and Professional Men's Club that would mentor our students. We added a swimming pool. We added lights to the football field for night games. We held a countywide school fair, the Bransford Review, the Top Hat Parade, and the King and Queen auction. Oh, and my very favorite was the homecoming football game and parade through the downtown streets. We put our fabulous Bransford High School marching band out front. And why did the white folks love to see our high-stepping band? None of the white school bands wanted to march after them because they knew they'd be outclassed. No. Well, as Bransford grew and prospered, time finally started to catch up in Tennessee and in Robeson County. That old hangover from the Jim Crow days, separate but equal, was on its way out when in 1965, Robeson County executed a plan to integrate all county schools. In 1967, Bransford students were given the opportunity to continue attending Bransford, or they could attend Springfield High School. Now, nearly all the students did not want to go to the white schools. Bransford had been their home. It was their parents' school, their grandparents' school. It had become the center of the African American community in Robeson County. It instilled everyone with tremendous pride and respect. However, I urged the students to go because I knew it would be in their best interest and they'd be better off in the long run. My reasoning? Well, the students would be better off in one school system with both black and white students learning together than in two separate systems like we've endured for the last century. Well, as I mentioned before, Bransford will be closing its doors forever come next fall. But I do hear there may be plans to convert it to a junior high school. I need to get to a meeting at the central office. Mr. Bella, it was very nice to have met you and had the opportunity to share my life story and my love of all things Bransford High School. But before I go, I have a final thought I'd like to share with you from a dear friend of mine. Dr. King once said, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." Farewell, Mr. Bell, and best wishes to you in your future.
This one.
In the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water.
God's gonna trouble the water. I see that band all dressed in red. God's gonna trouble the water. It looks like the band that Moses led. God's gonna trouble the water. Look at these children. My babies. Nearly all of them graduated last year, 1957. I remember the first day of school like it was yesterday. Some of them would wet themselves if I even looked at them hard. I say, now children, you are here at Bransford Elementary to learn to read and write. Once you learn to read and write, there ain't no place in this world that you can't go. Why? You can go to Nashville or Chicago or maybe even the North Pole. One little girl, she looked at me, she said, now, Miss Lena, how can that be? How can I go to the North Pole? I said, child, because books will take you there. Books will take you anywhere you want to go. Then there was another little boy. He came up to me. He said, now, Miss Lena, my daddy said that once I learn to read and write, I ain't got to come to school no more. I can quit school and come on home and help him on the farm. I said, now, boy, I don't mean no disrespect to your daddy, because he's a smart man. He loves you, and he cares for you, and he wants what's best for you. But now there's more to going to school than learning to read and write. If you get yourself a good education and at least a high school diploma, you can do anything in this world. He looked at me and he said, Miss Lena, I like coming to school too. I said, now, Siri, don't you worry. I'll talk to your mama and your daddy will come around. And he did too. 12 years later, young Cedric is at Tennessee A&I on a full scholarship. Well, enough of that memory lane business. I better hurry before I miss my bus to Knoxville.
Well, hello, Miss Lena. I see you packing up your desk and memories in that cardboard box.
Oh, hi there, John L. I didn't see or hear you coming down the hallway. And that's right. I figure I better hurry before I miss my bus to Knoxville.
What time is your bus leaving, Miss Lena? Maybe I can be of assistance to you.
Well, I'll catch the Greyhound down to Nashville, and I got about an hour layover there. And then it's a straight shot from here to Knoxville with a few stops between here and there.
Now, Miss Lena, I told you I would take you to Knoxville myself in the Buick Roadmaster, and I wouldn't make near as many stops.
Oh, John L., that's mighty kind of you, but I already told my niece I'd be getting in tonight on that 11 p.m. bus. Plus, I know you got better things to do with your time than be driving an old maid might like me to Knoxville. Don't you have that top hat banquet or something tonight?
For you, Miss Lena, and all you mean to this community, I could postpone the top hat banquet, and no one would say a word in protest.
Well, Hush now, you don't want to do that. Plus, I got my knitting with me and I'll be just fine. Now, you know what they say on television. Go Greyhound and lead a driving to us.
How about this, Miss Lena? Sweeten the pot. I'll let you listen to any music you want on my Roadmaster radio.
Ha! No, sir. I appreciate the offer. It's mighty kind, but I am riding that bus to Knoxville, Darnell, and that's all there is to it.
Well, if I've learned anything, it's that once Miss Lena has made up her mind, there is no changing it.
You got that right, sir. More men have tried than you and no such a luck.
But Miss Lena, are you sure you need to go to Knoxville? We can still use you and your skills right here in Springfield. Why, we are your people. This is your home. Your church is here. Why, who's going to play piano on Sunday?
We've had this discussion before. John, I'm too old to live by myself. My niece, she got me a room in that big old nice house of hers up there in Knoxville. No stairs to be messing with. There's a piano in the parlor where I can teach music to my children. There's a nice AME church right around the corner. I just want to go and be at peace and live until the good Lord calls me on home to glory.
All right, well, I wish you'd at least let us throw you a goodbye party.
A goodbye party? Well, y'all act like I ain't never coming back. It ain't but a 7.5-hour ride, bus ride from here to Knoxville. I'll be back for the Top Hat banquet next year, John. I promise.
Well, then I have something I'd like to tell you, Miss Lena. Something the good Lord has put on my heart. Something I should have told you a long time ago.
Now, John Lucas Patterson, I ain't never known you to be at a loss for words in all the 50-some odd years I've known you. You were a little boy with a big mouth screaming, I want to go home to my mom. I don't like it here. And boy, could you cry like no other.
I remember that day well myself, Miss Lena. That is in fact part of what I have to tell you. You changed my life that day. As much as I wanted to stay, as much as I wanted to go, I also wanted to stay. I remember what you said to me as clear as it was yesterday. You said, now John Lucas, you hush all that crying. You ain't got nothing to cry about, young man, because I'm going to take care of you while you're in my classroom, just like your mama. Not only that, but I'm going to teach you to read and write. And you're going to want to come to school from now on, because it's going to change your world. And Miss Lena, it did. It's because of you that I graduated from high school. It's because of you that I graduated from college. It's because of you that I became a teacher here at Bransford and later became its principal. Miss Lena, you have been a light to this community and have made such a difference in my life. For that, I am forever grateful to you, ma'am. I look around, but it's hard to see now for the dark. People lash out from the brokenness filling their hearts. And I wonder what I can do now to bring warmth to this cold. I can't sit back in silence just thinking I'm only one soul.
'Cause I have a voice, and now's the time, and I have a choice to stand up and let this light shine, to be the difference, be the light, break up the darkness in this fight. Be the voice they can hear above the noise. Show the world what real love is. Choose to be kind and to forgive. light.
Taking the road now that might cause the others to leave. Trying my best to put hatred and hurt behind me. Bringing life, hope, and love to a world that's so desperately flawed. We can choose to show others the love of our wonderful God.
'Cause I have a voice, and now's the time, and I have a choice to stand up and let this light shine. To be the difference, be the light, break up the darkness in this fight. To be the voice they can hear above the noise. Show the world what real love is. Choose to be kind and to forgive. Always stand up for what's right. And be the light. Be the light that shines so bright. Others find their way out of the dark. Be the song that makes them all sing along. Believe one person can still leave a mark. Be the difference, be the light, break up the darkness in this fight. Be the voice they can hear above the noise. Show the world what real love is. Choose to be kind and to forgive. Always stand up for what's right.
And be the light.
Be the light.
Be the light.
Be the light. Be the light.
You guys sing with us this time, okay?
Be the difference, be the light, break up the darkness in this fight. Be the voice they can hear above the noise. Show the world what real love is. Choose to be kind and to forgive. Always stand up for what's right. And be the light. Be the light.
Be the light.
Be the light. Be the light.
All right, all right. Okay, folks, I got one favor to ask of you, and that goes for you students as well as you older students. when you get out of here, I want you to let everybody you can know how much you enjoyed the performance that you saw here this morning. Will you do that for me, please? Really, really. We would appreciate very much. What these people have done here, right here, have recreated history and told a very important story. But probably the overriding part of the story is how important education is to everyone. So please take that lesson home with you and apply it in your own lives. And again, we appreciate you coming today.